All right, let's be honest. If you're building in the AI space, you've probably dreamed of creating your own autonomous agent. A JRVIS style assistant that just gets stuff done. But as so many of us have found out the hard way, the dream of building one and the reality, well, they're worlds apart.
And oh man, the dream is huge, right? We're all chasing that same fantasy, a truly smart AI that can research, plan, and actually execute on complex tasks without you having to hold its hand every step of the way. It's the ultimate promise of all this tech, and it's what gets so many of us excited to dive in and start creating.
But then, that dream hits a brick wall. And that wall is reality. Instead of feeling like Tony Stark building a masterpiece, you find yourself spending hours, sometimes days, just drowning in code, fighting with frameworks, and trying to figure out why your agent is stuck in some bizarre loop. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's enough to make you want to scrap the whole project.
So that's what we're going to break down today. First, we'll look at that gap between the dream and the reality. Then we'll dig into all the hidden headaches that make building agents so tough. After that, we'll check out a totally new approach, the visual builder. We'll see how it works, give it a fair look, the good and the bad, and then talk about what this all could mean for the future.
Okay, so let's start right there. This is really the core of the problem, isn't it? The promise is this amazing, powerful AI assistant, but the actual path to get there is like a minefield of technical problems that nobody really warns you about. So let's shine a light on what those problems actually are.
So what are these hidden headaches? I mean, what makes this so much harder than just hooking up a chatbot to an API? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of really annoying, time-sucking issues that pop up the second you try to build something that's actually useful.
In fact, when you talk to developers who are in the trenches doing this work, you find there are about 11 recurring problems that just keep showing up. These are the things that grind projects to a halt and make reliable agents feel impossible. We're going to group them into 3 big categories.
First up, complexity and control. And this one is a beast. You know the feeling. You end up spending more time fighting the agent framework itself than actually building your agent's logic. Then there's the control part. Getting a simple, hey, let a human approve this before you do it, is surprisingly hard in a lot of systems. And maybe the worst part? When things go wrong, the agent's reasoning is a total black box. You have no idea why it did what it did, which makes debugging a nightmare.
The second bucket of problems, these are the silent killers: efficiency and memory. Your agent can be burning through an insane number of tokens in the background, and you won't even know it until you get a massive bill. Plus, they're constantly losing context, or just forgetting what they were supposed to be doing halfway through a long task. And if the system hiccups or crashes, its entire state, everything it was working on, is just poof, gone.
And finally, there's reliability and security. We've all been there. The agent generates some code that's almost perfect, which is somehow even more annoying to fix than writing it from scratch. Then you've got the absolute headache of handling authentication for all the different tools you want it to use, which is a minefield for security holes. And to top it all off, those connections to other tools are super brittle. One little API update from another company and your whole agent just breaks.
Okay, so with all of that mess, it's pretty clear that something had to change, right? The old way was just too painful, and that brings us to a major turning point. Enter the visual builder, specifically OpenAI's new agent builder, which was designed to solve these exact problems.
So what is this thing really? The easiest way to picture it is like a digital whiteboard or a flowchart for your AI. Instead of typing out hundreds of lines of code, you're literally dragging and dropping different blocks onto a canvas and connecting them with lines to build your workflow. It's a completely different way of thinking about how to build an agent.
And this is where you really see the shift in action. On one side, you have the old way, wrestling with frameworks, trying to manage all these complex SDKs, and getting lost in debugging loops. But on the other side, you have this drag-and-drop canvas. You're just connecting nodes, you can see the logical flow right in front of you, and you can even get live previews as you're building. It's a total game changer.
Now, that all sounds cool in theory, but what does it actually look like to build with this thing? Let's get practical and see how you can put together a pretty smart agent just by connecting these digital blocks.
So the whole thing is built around these nodes. They're just little blocks that each do one specific job. A pretty standard flow would go something like this. The user's request comes in at a start node. Then it might go through a guardrails node to check for safety. From there, an if-else block can split the path, like, is this a research task or just a simple question? If it's research, it can trigger a tool node to search the web. And remember that human-in-the-loop problem?
Here, you can just drop in an approval node that literally pauses everything until a person clicks yes. Finally, it delivers the output. Every single step is a clear, visible block.
And this quote here from Christina at OpenAI really nails it. It's all about connecting nodes to build these agents without having to write code. The key idea is you're not a programmer staring at a blank, blinking cursor anymore. You're more like an architect, assembling powerful, pre-built components to create something new.
All right, but let's get real for a second. No new tool is a perfect silver bullet, especially on day one. So it's super important we take a critical look at this. Let's break down the good, the bad, and yeah, the ugly of using a tool like this today.
So, the good news? It's incredibly fast to get started. The interface is clean, and it's perfectly integrated with OpenAI's models. That's a huge plus. Now the bad? Whoa, those costs can sneak up on you fast. That's the price you pay for using the top-tier models. Also, it's a solo mission for now. There aren't really any collaboration features. And then there's the ugly. This is where you see it's not pure magic. Connecting it to outside tools can be really confusing, and you might have to roll up your sleeves and edit some raw JSON. It reminds you that even with a simple interface, you're still dealing with some seriously complex stuff underneath.
So when you add all that up, the big questions are, who is this really for right now? And what does this whole shift from writing code to building on a visual canvas really mean for the future of AI?
And the verdict, for now, seems pretty clear. This isn't really for the total non-coder. Not yet, anyway. The sweet spot is for technically minded people, developers, product managers, folks who already get how APIs and logic work, but who want a faster, more visual way to build and debug. It takes away the tedious parts of coding, but still expects you to understand the core concepts. And that leaves us with this really big, fascinating question to chew on. As these visual tools get better, smarter, and easier to use, are we watching the very nature of AI development change right before our eyes? Is building the next generation of AI going to feel less like programming and more like drawing a blueprint? It's a massive shift to think about, and it could change everything about who gets to build our future.